let's look at scheduling. So the next two tabs are going to be tabs where you might make some potential edits as well. Scheduling is where you can go ahead and edit tour options and those self-scheduling preferences for the Knockbot, when prospects are able to book self-scheduled tours and the touring hours. And then the Doorway tab goes into the Knockbot because the Doorway tab essentially is the overarching technology behind the Knockbot setup. So we're going to talk about the things there, such as editing your Knockbot preferences, as well as setting property business hours used for reporting. So under your scheduling tab, this is where you're going to go ahead and make any edits with that self-scheduling feature that is on for the Knockbot. So allowing prospects to self-schedule tours or not. If you want to allow prospects to self-schedule their own tours, you would just leave that self-schedule box checked on. You also can enable self-guided tours, in-person or video tours as well. You could also have self-guided tours occupy availability on your CRM calendar, meaning when a prospect books a self-guided tour, it's going to take that space on the calendar. If you want to leave the calendar open for anybody to book a tour, you can leave that unchecked. So prospects will still be able to book self-guided tours, but prospects could then also book a live in-person tour during a time when a self-guided tour is booked. That way you're bringing in and allowing people to book tours throughout the day. Cluster tours on the same day is a legacy feature, and we just recommend leaving that box unchecked just to make the admin work a little bit better. And then from here, you can also go ahead and make edits to those things, such as how long tours can be booked for, minimum booking notice, any buffers before or after appointments, and how far out prospects can actually book tours. And this is where you can also make edits or add any of those pre-screening questions that prospects need to answer before booking a tour. Under touring hours, you can see what hours are set up that allow prospects to book tours. So when I look at my admin dashboard here, I see prospects are able to book a self-scheduled tour Monday through Friday from 10 to 5, meaning prospects will not be given the option to book before 10 or after 5, and they will not be given the option to book on Saturday or Sunday. And I also see that the max simultaneous tours is 1. This is a default setting, meaning that only 1 tour can be booked at a time. Now, we recommend if you have a small team, you are keeping this setting to 1. If your property has a larger team, so your property, let's say, has at least 3 people minimum working every single day, and you wanted to bump this up to 2, that would mean that up to 2 prospects could book a tour at the same time, because you have the staff to cover those tours and bring in more tours during the day-to-day. But again, the default is automatically going to be at 1. Now, if you want to go ahead and allow, and you want to turn off self-scheduling, you would uncheck self-scheduling and uncheck the touring hours. If you wanted prospects to go ahead and choose options for a tour time and let your team make that final decision and reach out to confirm a time versus the prospect automatically being able to self-schedule a tour, you would just uncheck the self-schedule button, but leave touring hours turned on. That would allow prospects to request up to 3 times to book a tour, and then the office can reach back out to the prospect to confirm the tour time. But leaving both checked on allows prospects to book their own tour at any time based on the touring hours in place here. And then you can also do the same thing and allow the self-guiding tours to go ahead and be booked based on what is checked here. So again, scheduling is really focused around when prospects can book and manage their own tours for that self-scheduling with the Knockbot. The Doorway is actually what is the overarching technology behind the Knockbot and what is set up on the back end to go ahead and get the Knockbot in place. So from here, you can go ahead and see you have a couple options under general, require unit scheduling. If you require prospects to choose a specific unit to tour, you can leave that checked. If your property uses either Google Analytics or Google Tag Manager, you would just click one or the other based on which of the 2 your property uses. Hours here under the Doorway are tied to the hours based on reporting purposes. So This ties to your Knock analytics. So those reports that your property pulls for engagement score, activity, etc., those are controlled by the hours selected here in the doorway tab in the admin dashboard. So as you can see here, the hours on my property that are being used for reporting are Monday through Saturday from 9 to 6, meaning that these are the hours that are being included in that reporting time. They are not being reporting on Sunday's hours because Sunday is left unchecked. This is where you would make any changes to those reporting hours. Under doorway settings, you have the options to choose what is on the Knockbot itself. So when a prospect opens up the Knockbot from your website, anything checked here is what they will see as options to view. And if you have FAQs checked, you have the option to go ahead and create your own FAQs or use preset ones in the system. The quick launch menu is a list of up to 5 options available that show above the Knockbot for a prospect to click on without having to go directly into the Knockbot. So you can have up to 5 options here of what prospects can click on automatically before opening up that Knockbot. And then the schedule a tour content box is going to be any information, anything that you would like included in the Knockbot. This is custom. So if you want to add any custom content when a prospect opens up the Knockbot, you can include that here. This is a new feature, and if you're really into that, you can go ahead and create that content there. And the DNI swap target and dynamic number insertion are essentially tied to the source that your prospect uses to find your property and how that ties to when they are directed to your website. So essentially keeping that consistency. So if your prospect was to find your property through Google, the number here is going to be, they call it, is going to replace what they see on the website tied to the source that they found. So that way it keeps the consistency. So once again, keeping that same number as they move through being a prospect at your property. So they have that same number that they can reach out to reach out and contact your property directly. You also have the option to go ahead and add banner text to your property's website. You can add a custom appointment message. You even can go ahead and add disclaimer text and settings for self-guided tours, live video tours, or in-person tours as well. You can add any of that disclaimer information, such as bringing an ID, wearing a mask, whatever that custom content is, you can go ahead and add those disclaimers as well. And then you can also add any virtual tours. So if your property utilizes things such as Matterport or YouTube virtual tours, you can add those links here so the prospect can take a virtual tour of a specific unit or amenity at your property. And then for those of you that are into the super techie side of things, the code used to add the Knockbot to your website is actually here under the integration and embedding instructions. So this is that code that is added on that to go ahead and insert the Knockbot into your website and add that feature on your main page website's page. So that code lives here if you're into that sort of thing.